got to go.
Well, Robert, if I may spoil the punchline for those who don't know, Benshoof got sentenced to 11 years in jail, above and beyond what the prosecution was asking for. I want to spoil the surprise a little bit. And the judge was angry that the prosecutors actually were going for something of a reduced sentence, only asking for 8 years. You don't need to go into the thick of the weeds of the summary, but this is the dad who, well, because there are separate trials going on here. You'll specify which court was dealing with this. This is not the I want to say Asian lady.
Well,
this
it's all the same case.
But it's not the Asian judge.
Yeah, a different judge. They took the same case, tried it in 2 different courts with 2 different judges with 2 different juries, so they could get 2 bites at the apple and cumulative punishment.
Who was the judge in this case?
Judge Parisian. This was the one we looked up last time.
Yep.
That is one of the most hated judges anywhere in the world. Considered one of the worst judges anywhere in the world. And then you add woke on top of it, and you get a sense of it. Because to give people context, they accused him of stalking and harassment. What was the stalking? The stalking was serving legal documents on the mother of his son and her girlfriend in a range of cases, because the mother was trying to take his son away from him, trying to take his house away from him, and trying to take his car away from him. And he was bringing legal actions to try to protect his rights. He didn't initiate or instigate any of it. He's just trying to defend himself and serving legal papers on them to get it. So the evidence of stalking and harassment was serving legal papers, leaving voice messages that could be deleted and blocked anytime they want, leaving sending political text that could also be blocked or deleted anytime they want. And otherwise, the real big evidence, the evidence focused on by the prosecution in closing argument, was he sent his son a pizza on his birthday. That was literally the key evidence used to convict him. Now we get to the sentencing stage.
Hold on, Robert. What were the toppings? I say it as a joke.
It was his favorite topping. Like, I think half like pepperoni, half pineapple, something like that.
It was pineapple? Lock the mother effer. By the way, I'm joking. I actually like pineapple on pizza as well, but I don't eat pizza just because, that bread. But no, it wasn't like an act of intimidation. It wasn't like he knew the kid was allergic.
Not at all. Okay. His son has never complained about him ever. For responding to his son's text, he was charged with 81 crimes every time he responded to a text from his son. From his own son. So that's how insane this case is. How it all started was he opposed mask mandates. Because he opposed mask mandates, they first prohibited him from shopping at local stores. Then, after that, getting a trespass injunction against him. Then they arrested him, and then they jailed him over his opposing mask mandates. Then he opposed his son getting the COVID vaccine without his informed consent. He didn't object to his son getting the COVID vaccine. He said as long as his son had informed consent. They agreed to give his son informed consent. Then they lie. They hide information from the son. They hide information from him. This is the basis for all of the legal actions he takes concerning his son afterwards. All of which he uses legal process and legal courts to do, which is his First Amendment right to petition the courts for redress of grievance, like you can petition the entire government for redress of grievance.
Just to highlight this, wouldn't ignoring your kid be child abuse? Shaking my effing head, says Bill Brown of our locals community.
Correctly.
No,
this is a teenage son desperately wants a connection with his father, who even responded. He goes, I know they're going to try to use this against me, but am I supposed to pretend I don't love you? That was his response. And for this, the city of Seattle, King County, Seattle, prosecuted him under charges of violation of a court order, a stalking, and harassment. Now, these are all supposed to be misdemeanors. They elevate it to a 10-year felony by including the court order violation component. For that, you're supposed to be able to argue, according to the law itself, according to the Constitution of both Washington and the United States, according to precedents established in the state of Washington by courts. Your legal defense is if you believe the court order is illegal. If you believe there's some part of the process of the court order that was not legally done. If you believe the court order is not constitutional. Then if you believe your activities are constitutionally protected, then you cannot go to prison under Washington's own laws. However, the judge instructed the jury they could not consider any of that. The judge instructed me I could not reference the word Constitution in a King County courthouse to a jury in a case that was all about the Constitution. So gutted his defense at every possible level, allowed evidence to come in that had nothing to do with the case, that falsely smeared him, excluded any evidence that embarrassed the government from coming in, included evidence that violated his First Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights, Fifth Amendment rights, and Sixth Amendment rights. So the trial was a sham, complete sham, a joke.
I just don't understand how they had two separate trials for the same charges, because we watched the I forget her name. I don't want to remember a name, just that would be wrong and then be accused of things. But what was her name? I'm going to go look it up in a second. We watched that trial.
I think it was Judge Chin was the city
Chin.
judge.
Okay, that's what I thought. We watched her read those text messages like it was the most shocking thing that anybody had ever said. How does he end up with two separate trials over the same issues? Like, what is the even...
Well,
the steel man...
Here's the new way they've decided to game the system in Seattle. So the reason he's being targeted is there are not many stalking charges even brought in the state of Washington. Okay, it's not like a common event. I think they had like 30 cases in all of 2023. So why are they going after him when there's no allegation of violence at all? No allegation of violent threats at all. None of the traditional apparatus or aspects or modus operandi of any kind of domestic abuse or violence. It's agreed by the mother, by the son, by the guardian ad litem, by everybody that he has never harmed his son ever. He didn't even spank his son, that his son wanted to be with him. So these are beyond disputes. So why are they targeting him? They're targeting him, and this was admitted at the sentencing. At the sentencing, one of the key so-called victims is a woke activist. She gets money from the government related to this case, by the way. She is a Soros founded person who got money related to U.S. aid and others from the U.S. government during the Biden administration. This case is purely political. She even told the judge, punish him because he's white, because he's a man, and because of his beliefs. That is what it, and I told the judge, you can't do that, right? You understand that, right? Nope, that's just fine. And the judge liked to emphasize how she was taking away his right to vote and taking away his right of self-defense. She kept talking about it again and again and again. She was so excited about it because this is what liberal authoritarianism looks like. It's Soviet style. That is what Seattle is worse than Soviet style justice. So the reason he is being prosecuted is selective prosecution because he's the wrong race, gender, and political beliefs in the city of Seattle, as admitted at the sentencing that occurred in the case. That's why, because what they did is, but they wanted to abuse the process. So the problem is all the legal process says he hasn't committed any crime at all. All the law says, even if you get him convicted, he should serve no more than a year, but for all the charges combined. On average, a typical defendant accused of what he was accused of, even if accused of the same crimes he was accused of, but they actually committed the crimes unlike him, on average, they got 0 prison time in Seattle. So that's the norm. So how do they get around that? They take one case and they divide it. And they do it because, unlike most jurisdictions, the state of Washington has 2 different legal systems in the state of Washington. One at the city level, one at the county level. And so what they did is they take one case, prosecute it in the city, but then decide to split the case so they can prosecute half of the case in the city of Seattle and half of the case in the King County. Mm-hmm. And what does this do? Well, first of all, it gives them 2 shots at the jury because if you don't win the first case, you can win the second. It gets you 2 shots at the judges. If you don't like one judge, you get another one. And last but not least, they did it to game the sentencing guidelines in Washington. Because the way the guidelines in Washington work is you're not supposed to go with what's called above guideline sentence. The guidelines recommended for him less than a year, recommended that he do no time at all. So how do you create a system where you can claim the guidelines support a long sentence? By prosecuting him twice for the same thing. But you just do one set. That's why they take every single text rather than have one count of violating a court order, one count of contempt, whatever you want to call it, or custodial interference, whatever. They do 81 different counts. They take every little text and count it as a separate crime, which is not supposed to happen in in Washington under its state law, under its sentencing guidelines, under its prosecutorial ethics, or under its constitutional construction or U.S. Constitution. Then they used the conviction in the city case. I was always wondering, why did they force the city case so fast? I mean, he went to trial in like a month or two of his arrest. He asked for a very brief continuance of the city trial so that I could appear in the case. The judge refused. Then the judge excluded him from the jury selection. He didn't even get to participate in his own jury selection, in his own trial. And then I realized why. They got the conviction, and then in the county case, they pretended the city case was a separate, unrelated prior case, so that it created a fake, oh, judge, he has the worst rap sheet in Washington. He has 82 prior convictions.
They used the conviction from that idiot Judge Chin, who actually, we were watching it, I don't know if it was live, I highlighted it, told him to leave the courtroom while they were still in the process of, I believe it was sentencing, and you went a little nuts where I thought you were actually going to get held in contempt. So they used that prior 81 count conviction to enhance his sentence at the second trial.
The game did at every level. Not only get 2 shots at the jury, 2 shots at the judge. They used the city case to create a fake sentencing standard in his county case, and she used the city case to lock him up and put him in solitary confinement a week before his county case so he couldn't help prepare in his own county defense. They went to great, and this is a guy who was representing himself pro se until 1776 Law Center got involved and asked me to represent him on his behalf. This is how nuts this is. They've done things I have never seen in the history of the country. I couldn't find another analogous case anywhere where this amount of gamesmanship had gone into trying to go after one guy. And again, what did he do? Sent pizza to his son on his birthday and answered his own son's text. He objected to a vaccine mandate. But so we go to the sentencing, and let me give you the sentencing guidelines in Washington. One, an honest interpretation of the guidelines meant he should do no time. It is extremely rare to get an above guidelines sentence in the state of Washington, and it's often illegal to impose it. To give you an idea of what the state of Washington does in its other sentences, people convicted of custodial assault, in other words, interfering in the custodial relationship by physically assaulting their child or partner, get on average of 15 months sentence. People convicted of domestic violence protection orders where they commit actual violence got an average of, the ones that actually committed violence, unlike him, got 21 months on an average sentence. So people convicted of commercial sexual exploitation of a minor, known as making CP, get about a 3-year sentence in the state of Washington. People convicted of incest, get a 4-year sentence in Washington. And this judge gave him the maximum possible allowed under law of 11 years. Gave him a sentence almost 3 times worse than what an incest convicted defendant gets in Washington, than every assaulter, robber, burglar, trespasser, or serious criminal gets in the state of Washington. They treated him as if he was worse than the worst gangbanger in the history of the state. And what did he do? He was white, he was male, he had the wrong beliefs. And in fact, the lead so-called victim witness against him, who blamed him for her being a prostitute, blamed him for her getting COVID, that's how insane these people are, said, Judge, put him in prison because he's white, because he's male, because he has the wrong beliefs. And the judge celebrated that. The judge welcomed that. You have an entire prosecutorial process in the city and county of Seattle. This is what woke justice looks like, folks. They will lock you up for life and then ordered a re-education camp for him at the end of it. Said he'll have certain kinds of therapy meant to treat his mental condition concerning his wayward beliefs. The guardian lied him in the case, in the underlying family case. Said, Judge, take away his child because, quote, his beliefs are outside the Seattle mainstream on the COVID vaccine. That is what woke justice looks like. It uses your race against you. It uses your gender against you. It uses your sexual identity against you. It uses your religious identity against you. It uses your political beliefs against you. And it will weaponize the entire legal system until it can take away every right you have. Look at what they've done to Mr. Benshoof. And by the way, what was Benshoof documenting? The main reason why they had to hide all the evidence of the prostitution of the mother and the mother's girlfriend was not just to show the truth of what was happening in the case and why he was upset and concerned about protecting his son, aside from the COVID vaccine, was he didn't want his son going on their prostitution trips. And he didn't know what they were up to, because he uncovered and discovered that they were connected to a prostitution and human trafficking ring that is global. And not only that, that has ties to high-profile Seattle businessmen, high-profile Seattle politicians, including high-profile people, as I proffered to the court we would be able to show until she prohibited all such evidence at trial, concerning judges in Seattle, concerning prosecutors in Seattle, concerning high-ranking decision-makers in Seattle. So this is the other thing he just kind of stumbled into. He didn't mean to expose it. He just ended up exposing it. And that's why they're making him such a target. This is what woke justice looks like. It's insanity on steroids. It's things we've never seen before, never witnessed before, much like many of the crazy judges' orders trying to usurp the 2024 election and engage in a coup. But Kurt Benshoof is in prison today because of his honest political beliefs, opposing COVID vaccine mandates on children without their informed consent, because he's white and because he's a man. That's it. That's what the court itself implicitly acknowledged at the sentencing hearing.
Robert, Encryptus, who's also helping with the production of the show these days, says, is Harmeet Dillon going to help with this true miscarriage of justice and the evil acts of this judge and justice system? First of all, he's in jail now, pending appeal. So,
in fact, they've locked him away in solitary confinement. He's let out 1 hour a day. And there's been no justification for why he's in solitary confinement. Just the way the King County Jail acts. He can't get basic things, people can't buy things for him without the jail trying to interfere with it. They had multiple police officers there just to try to create an intimidating environment. They are using all the tools of the state to utterly crush any political opposition, any belief structure. What you're seeing around the world, what you're seeing to Trump, they're doing now on a regular basis to anybody who sticks their head up in complaints. Even if you're Kurt Benshoof, you're just a blue-collar guy, a preacher inside your home. That's all you do. You're not, big. You're not trying to be a big guy or a big actor. Now, credit to him. He's managed to handle despite all the torture they put him under, he has refused to buckle. He appreciates everybody's prayers and good wishes and support for him. He feels, he sees it. He quotes the old Buddhist text that every obstacle is just a disguised opportunity. And and he got a chance to give a statement. And at the end of the statement, he understood better than I ever did the principle eloquently stated in the book The Invisible Man, where the grandfather explains to his grandson, what it's like to be black in America in the 1950s. He says, "Son, curse them with your yes, sirs." And I've been always trying to figure that out my whole life. I was trying to figure it out from the time I read it. Well, Kurt Benshoof's answer, seeing this whole system oppress him and lie about him, they have now taken away his right to sue, even go to court with legal redress of grievance without advance permission of the court. They've taken away his home that he spent years on, that he'd built up. That was his entire net worth. That was entire wealth. They've stripped that away from him. They've taken away his son, prohibiting him from even having any contact or communication with his son, and threatening his son that his son will go to prison if he even tries. And now they've taken away his liberty. Most people crack. Most people break. What does he do when given an opportunity to give a statement? He is thankful to all the people that supported 1776 Law Center and says he wants to extend their thanks to helping him, to defend him in the cause and the case that he represents, as an opportunity to make important precedent that could protect everybody else's rights and remedies by singing me happy birthday. That's how he handles it. That's who Kurt Benshoof is. So we're going to march forward. We're going to win the appeal, and that corrupt hack commie Judge Parisian, belongs in prison if Harmeet Dillon's going to do her job. But it's an open question whether she does.